Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here representing Jason Blaha Strength and Fitness, and today I thought I would chat with you guys and gals a little bit about being careful of getting fitness advice from pro bodybuilders. But if you guys would please remember to click a like down below, be greatly appreciated. If you're not following or subscribed, please do so. And if you'd be kind enough to drop me a comment down below, I would appreciate that so much. Thank you. So people always do this stuff, and I'm not saying that there are not pro bodybuilders who are not absurdly knowledgeable. Let me make that statement up front. Okay, let me be clear. I've met some pro bodybuilders. I've met some guys out there with pro cards who coach. They're trainers. They're really good trainers. They have a good working knowledge of training, programming, biomechanics. They have real good practical experience working with people, getting people results. So let me be clear. They do exist. All right, let us be clear. Being a high-level pro bodybuilder does not exclude you from being an amazing coach and source of information by any means. But what we need to understand is practical knowledge, right? Just like because someone says, well, you know, I've got a PhD in exercise science. All right, that's cool. So you have some textbook knowledge, may or may not have been good information, but do you coach people for a living? Well, then you have no practical application for other people of that knowledge, right? I'm still not interested in what you have to say. I'm just not from a knowledge perspective of helping people get results, okay? And it's because when we are dealing with training and coaching and all this stuff, when you're putting out information and advice, it has to be practical. Do you know how to make stuff work for the average person? And the problem is when you deal with a lot of pro bodybuilders, I mean, I'll use the perfect example, and I'm not even saying everything Jay Cutler says is wrong. He says a lot of stuff that's really actually correct. I've heard him say plenty of things that I'm like, yeah, he's got some real good points, okay? So let me state that up front. But I've heard people say, well, who are you to argue with Jay Cutler? He's won all these Olympias or whatever on a technique or a form. It's like, okay, but here's the problem. Did you guys see Jay Cutler as a teenager? He was already a monster, like genetic freak. And like everything else we've noticed, how often can genetic freaks get amazing results while doing stuff completely ridiculous in a way that doesn't work for other people? Okay, we see that, right? Everyone is aware of this, right? We've all seen them at the gym. All right, that's one thing. People just are genetically blessed with different things with their hormones and hormone response and muscle fibers and muscle bellies, okay? And again, can be ridiculous sometimes. And I think Jay Cutler was a perfect example, right? Perfect example. Look at him when he was a teenager. The dude was ridiculously stacked. All right. So what happens when then you combine that with ridiculous amounts of anabolics? They get great results. Here's the problem. Like most genetic outliers and the truly gifted, right? For those who are truly gifted like that, they don't have to have the same learning curve other people have. Things come naturally to them. And particularly if you combine it with people who have what we call a high kinesthetic IQ. Okay, so think of a lot of your pro athletes, right? Anybody winning the Super Bowl, I promise you, their kinesthetic IQ is off the charts. Their sense of movement and body awareness for their own personal body is usually extremely high, like above average. That's a trait you look for when you look at a pro basketball or baseball or football player. Some of these people, they have a certain type of intelligence involved with that. They have a body awareness. So the same thing, they find things to where they feel for their personal biomechanics, they learn stuff instantly. So the same thing, if they're having that, then of course things like their body awareness, their mind-muscle connection for certain movements, is they're going to hone in on these things very effectively for their body. Now, you combine something like that with great genetics for muscle and strength and size, a tolerance for anabolics, right? Combined with large amounts of drugs, they're going to have muscularity and size and things that other people will not obtain. Doesn't mean that they had some great knowledge. No, in fact, it's not always the case. They often suck at coaching other people. And once they start coaching other people, you'll find some of the really good bodybuilders are like, oh yeah, when I started kind of working with other people, I realized their body doesn't respond like mine does. So when they coach for a living, they're like, oh, okay. They're like, I get it. My results are a selling point, but I don't know how to really get results in other people till I worked with them. And you'll see the ones who are really good at it will admit that. They're like, yeah, no, I don't always train my clients the way I train myself. I know better. I have experience training people. I know that normal people have a different training response. I know that different people have different biomechanics. That there's no perfect form. Again, when it comes to things like form and technique, people really think a perfect form is the same for every person on a movement. That's not always the case. Not at all. Good coach learns to find limitations. They learn different people's movement patterns, different people's training response. They also realize certain people respond different to certain training modalities a little bit. Okay. Good trainer, someone putting out good information, knows how to spot those differences in a person. Right? They know how to spot those things real quick. That's experience. So when you're dealing with a lot of these pro bodybuilders, it's not to downplay their results. It's to say that some of them have such an amazing genetic response, they didn't have to learn certain things the hard way that it's going to have to be instilled in other people who are listening to their advice. Okay, a lot of stuff came a lot easier to them. And then they're on tons of drugs on top of it, right? They're not going to train the same way that other people need to always train. They have a huge margin of error. You also have to factor in a lot of times these guys find techniques and things that they feel that they get that mind-muscle connection on, that they get into that groove perfectly, that other people are not. They're not gonna swing it. So if you have one of them who's like, I always do this with a loose form and do this, but you look and they're maintaining, even though they're cheating, you're like, they're still maintaining a high degree of tension on that muscle. And then someone else tries to imitate that form and they're flopping around everywhere. And these are the sort of examples we see, and so be aware of that when you're getting advice or emulating or imitating a lot of pro bodybuilders. If they don't train other people for a living, be leery of their advice, just like we are with the evidence-based guy. He's got a PhD, but he doesn't coach. If he can't coach his way out of a wet paper bag, his advice may not be worth taking that seriously. Do his people get results? Do his clients get results? This is really the litmus test of what we're looking for putting out information, right? As far as us weighing how good their information really is. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.